sidelines of the visit of the Singaporean President Dr. Tony Tan to the country, who's being accompanied by a number of Singaporean ministers and officials from Singapore. I'm being joined right now by Dr. Yaqub Ibrahim, who's the Singaporean Minister of Communication and Information, and who's also the Minister of Cybersecurity and Minister in charge of Muslim Affairs. Your Excellency, thank you so much for joining us today on TV International.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Now, sir, the ICT industry in Singapore is a key driver of the Singaporean economy.
Yes.
We would like you to share more light on the success story of Singapore in that field.
Yeah. Well, the answer is quite simple, Excellency. ICT has been something which the government has adopted for a very long time. We believe that leveraging on technology will allow us to do our job better, to organize Singapore better. So from the 1980s, when we started a huge computerization program of the government services, today we have well over 90 e-government services where we offer to the various community, to Singaporeans. But more importantly, in this current revolution, we are now trying to tap ICT in a way that will enhance our quality of life. So it will impact the way we work, the way we live, the way we interact. For example, we're making transportation a lot more seamless, where people can use applications. And we are now sharing a lot more data with the community so that people can take the data and use the data and develop new applications. Within government, we are also using government data to see what we can do in terms of policy formulation and coming out with new services. There is an effort now to digitize government services so that at the front end of our services, be it housing or public health, we need less people. We can use artificial intelligence, we can use robots, we can use other new technology to allow Singaporeans to actually navigate so that they can get the services that they want. So this revolution is still ongoing. We are basically a very long way, but we are started. And most importantly now, we are committed to building Singapore into a smart nation. The most important thing for us in Singapore is that it must make our life better. It is not about technology for the sake of technology, but technology must serve the interests of Singaporeans, be it in businesses or families or governments and corporations. So it is a widespread revolution. The government itself is taking the lead because we cannot wait for the private sector, because government also has to transform. In fact, it is the government transformation from the 80s that has driven this ICT revolution, because the companies then realized that they can come to Singapore, work with the Singapore government. Now that we have our Smart Nation vision, we are working with several private sectors operators to make sure that we can roll out new services, be it in healthcare, transportation, housing, education, so the whole range. And this will take us a very long time to realize, but the most important thing for me as Minister in charge of Comms and Information is to build the infrastructure for the Smart Nation with our fiber, with our sensors, so that then the other agencies can ride on top of the infrastructure the various services. So as I said earlier, it is a massive effort by our government, but it's also a long-term effort, because we must make sure that whatever technology that we deploy, it must help Singaporeans and help people who want to come to Singapore to do businesses. So that's where we are now, and as I said earlier, we are on this journey, and we are confident it will achieve our vision of a smart nation one day.
Now, sir, the Egyptian ICT sector is also one of the most promising sectors in the country.
Yes.
In light of that, how is Singapore and Egypt planning to cooperate in that field?
Yeah, it's a very good point. From what I've seen, from what I've met, that the ICT sector here is also very vibrant. A lot of young people getting involved in innovation, coming up with new ideas and new apps. Thus far, our collaboration has been in training, where several Egyptian officials have actually come down to Singapore to attend some of our training program. We now have a new agency called the Infocom Media Development Authority, which is the merger of two authorities, and we are going to roll out new training programs. Perhaps in the area of training program is something which we can explore, how we can collaborate further. I am a firm believer of getting young people to meet one another. I think this is where the internet allows startups in Egypt, startups in Singapore to meet and discuss, basically. I think these are areas in which we should explore, because it's when young people meet, they have different ideas, they can discuss and new ideas will emerge, basically. So we look for such collaboration, but at the end of the day, it is not something which is top down from the government. It has to come from the industry. I've mentioned earlier to some of my colleagues here in Egypt that we are always looking for talent. We're always looking for people who are prepared to come to Singapore, because the ICT talent is very critical, right? So we remain open to the world. Singapore is prepared to work with any country. As long as it is a win-win situation, we're prepared to explore the opportunities.
Now, sir, the visit of the President to the country coincides with the 50th
Yes.
anniversary of the establishment
Yes.
of diplomatic relations between Egypt and Singapore.
Yeah.
how are both countries, or how will this relation reflect on the different cooperation between both countries in the different fields?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Excellency, because as you rightly pointed out, this is the 50th anniversary of us establishing diplomatic relations with Egypt. And Egypt was one of the first Arab countries in the world to recognize us after our independence in 1965. So we are grateful for that recognition. More importantly, we're grateful for the friendship that has lasted for 50 years. So the visit of my president, Dr. Tony Tan Kim Yang, here is to reaffirm that relationship. That's very important, because for us in this global world, it is good to have many friends, and we want to have more friendship in that sense. Secondly is to celebrate that 50th anniversary, as you rightly pointed out, in many ways. One of which is in cooperation, is in companies working together. So we've brought a business delegation here, and the business delegation are talking to their counterparts here to see what more can be done between the business community from Singapore and the business community here in Egypt. So we are exploring different levels of cooperation, and my officials are also looking into what are the ways in which we can work together. So the way we celebrate the 50th anniversary is to see how we can strengthen that relationship through certain cooperation, and as I mentioned earlier, we want the industry also to be involved, because they are the one who understand better what are the needs of the society, how they can work together. So we have a 40-strong business delegation from Singapore, and they are meeting the Egyptian counterparts. And from what we've heard is that there are good ideas coming out of ways in which we can collaborate.
Now, sir, we would like you also to shed more light on the meeting that took place between the Singaporean president and the Grand Imam of Islam.
It was a good meeting. It is something which we always look forward to, as the Grand Imam has a lot of ideas, a lot of insights into challenges confronting the Muslim world. We have our own set of challenges in Singapore, and our president is always very keen to learn, to see what more that we can do in areas in which we can collaborate. I think one thing is very clear, that with the Grand Imam, we are united in one vision. We want a safer world. We want a world where people can live in peace and harmony. My president carries that same values, which is a value that we uphold in Singapore, and I think that meeting is a wonderful meeting for us to explore new areas of collaboration. In fact, the Grand Imam gave us several ideas on one things that Al-Azhar has done and how we can collaborate. So we are exploring those ideas that the Grand Imam has shared with my president.
And how interested is Singapore in sending its students to Al-Azhar University?
Well, we have always been interested. Al-Azhar is one of the most prestigious Islamic institutions in the world. Our students enjoy coming here. In fact, the diversity of the curriculum in Al-Azhar is really something that we look forward to, because we live in a diverse society in Singapore. We have Muslims, Buddhists, Christians, people with no religion living side by side. Our students must come back to understand that context. Al-Azhar gives that training, which I think is very important. So currently we have about 240 students studying in Al-Azhar. Every year there will be students from Singapore, and we want to ensure that they continue to receive the best training possible, because they come back, they become imams, they become religious leaders in Singapore. They come with that diversity of thinking that Al-Azhar has given them. So we're very happy with the collaboration. We want to see more of our students coming to Al-Azhar.
Now, sir, as the Minister in charge of the Muslim affairs,
Yes.
we would like to know about how do you see the role Al-Azhar should play in order to, let's say, spread the real image of Islam?
Agreed. I think Al-Azhar is an important institution in the global fight against radical ideas and extreme ideologies. From what I've heard, I think the Grand Imam, the professors in Al-Azhar are all taking this challenge seriously. What I think we need to do is to translate some of those ideas in which the lecturers and the Grand Imam has been talking about into something that we can popularize across the whole world. Al-Azhar is a highly recognized institution. It commands respect of the Muslim world. It can play a lot in disseminating the right ideas to the rest of the Muslim world. So I would welcome Al-Azhar's role, and we in Singapore are happy to collaborate with Al-Azhar in ensuring that those ideas, which are the healthy ideas that can counter the radical ideas, can be sort of make it more popular, spread into our society. I think
and also to promote moderate Islam.
Exactly.
Upgrade the religious discourse.
Exactly. So that at the end of the day, people understand that Islam is diverse. The radicals and the extremists wants to believe there's only one path. Actually, there are multiple paths. There are multiple ideas. It is for us to select depending on our context. Al-Azhar has made that very clear. Al-Azhar has reflected that in their training of our students. That's important for us. So that voice must continue to come out, must continue to make itself be heard in the global community, that we don't get distracted by one idea that we think is the truth. Actually, that's not quite true, because you look at the Islamic tradition of 1400 years, diversity in terms of thinking by the imams, the various contexts and what have you, and that is a rich tradition. We should not ignore that rich tradition. If anything, you ask me personally, that rich tradition is actually important now more than ever for Muslims to understand that Islam is compatible with the modern world. You can coexist with the modern world and yet remain true to your beliefs.
Finally, sir, a message that you would like to send on the occasion of your visit to the country?
Well, I thank Egypt for their warm hospitality. I thank the Egyptian people for receiving us warmly and also for being our friend for the last 50 years. I hope that on the occasion of the 50th anniversary that we can continue to strengthen the ties that bind us as two people in our common cause to make this world a better place for all people in this world.
Your Excellency, thank you so much for joining us today on TV International.
Thank you very much for having me here.